You've always been the reliable one, Kirsten. I figured you wouldn't object if portions ran short. That's what she uttered, right before passing the final ladle of whipped potatoes to my sibling's partner, the identical dish I'd transported from my place. I stayed silent, didn't question it, didn't create a fuss. I simply lifted my platter, the sole item I'd offered to that flawless spread, and exited. No shouting, no forceful exits, merely the subtle creak of seats adjusting and remorse masquerading as a sigh. In the vehicle, my sons murmured, "Mom, did we do something wrong?" I replied, "Not any longer. I'm Kirsten Hale, 34, parent to two, the individual they labeled impolite for departing without a meal. They overlooked my serving. I retained every detail. Folks assumed the serving was the issue. It wasn't. It was all that preceded it. Each holiday gathering, each celebration, each weekly meal where I supplied dishes, yet never claimed a spot that genuinely belonged to me. I was the supporter, the gap filler, the person who smoothed the path. When father suffered his cardiac episode, I ferried him to consultations, covered his medications, and assured mother not to fret. When Jeff faced separation, I minded his children each weekend, allowing him to rebuild. When expenses mounted, mother termed it a minor assist. 2 years on, the assist evolved into my charge card, and their provisions, their fuel, their connection. Each instance I attempted discussion, mother repeated the phrase, "You're resilient, Kirsten. You manage well." I trusted her. For if I hadn't, the reality would have overwhelmed me. Resilient morphed into the term she employed in place of gratitude. And when I ultimately required aid, a lift, a childminder, a touch of compassion, suddenly schedules filled up. That holiday wasn't the initial occasion I'd left unsatisfied. It was merely the first they'd publicized. I gazed at that vacant spread, the flames flickering low like timers ticking away, and comprehended I'd constructed an existence where my affection served as tender, and my quietude was the accrual they gathered. That evening, as flakes struck the glass, I held back tears. I simply navigated. Certain voids can't be satisfied, only concluded. They instructed me in service. They merely omitted teaching me retention. The dawn following the holiday, I prepared warm drinks for my sons and observed them assemble block towers on the carpet. Their joy echoed through the hush my folks once dominated. That's when it struck. Tranquility resembles vacancy. I positioned myself at the counter, eyed the partially depleted baking pan I'd borne back the prior night, and grasped I'd nourished all but myself. For 2 years, I'd shouldered their dues, their supplies, their remedies, even the network they utilized to murmur about me. Yet still, I was the one they deemed unappreciative. Thus, I accessed my computer, accessed the financial site, and terminated the card they'd relied on. No fury, no declaration, merely a precise severance from a segment. Then I messaged them, kindly refrain from the card henceforth. I've terminated it. I'll manage my funds independently moving forward. Concise, courteous, conclusive, it required 43 minutes for the initial ring to arrive. Mother's recording spanned 3 minutes, a display of dismay. She claimed offense that I'd shamed her, that she couldn't fathom my theatrics. Not once did remorse cross her lips. Then father messaged, "What's happening with the card?" "Groceries are out of reach." I contemplated the text extensively. It wasn't inquiry. It was demand. I erased it. Quietude emerged as my fresh dialect. Mother rang anew, then repeatedly, then via the fixed line. I flipped the device screen down on the surface and permitted it to chime solo. No more nocturnal interventions. No more justifications. I retrieved a memo pad from the cabinet and inscribed 3 guidelines. Initially, no funds absent regard. Secondly, no arrivals sans prior word. And thirdly, no remorse absent evidence. I affixed it to the cooler like a fresh household mantra. When the chiming ceased at last, the dwelling seemed nearly sacred. Hush possesses boundaries. Mine sharpened to slice. That evening, I prepared toasted sandwiches for the sons, shaped them into crescents simply to elicit giggles. We dined on the lounge flooring, encircled by animation, audio, and security. No strain, no blame, merely coziness that sought no return. Post-slumber, I lingered in the threshold, noting the undulation of their covers. It dawned. This embodied safeguarding, not utterances, not pardon, simply limits with bite. Beyond, precipitation persisted. And for the first occasion in ages, I didn't sense diminutive within my narrative. Mother might deem it discourteous. Father might deem it thankless, but I recognized its essence. It was serenity donning a fresh title. Mine, they mistook my generosity for frailty. Now they're discerning the distinction. 3 days of muteness elapsed like an exam I declined to flunk. On Thursday, scholar retrieval seemed routine until my elder presented a slip. A woman provided this, he noted. She recognizes Nana. The sheet was folded, then flattened like a flawed notion revisited. Within, a reproduced image of my fiscal record, expenditures highlighted in crimson, provisions, apothecary, a lodging in Shore Point. At the base, in ink, thus you've perpetually tallied, I motored residence in a direct path that resembled a edge. Ages prior, I displayed Jeff my monetary application amid his split. Brief entry, brief akin to frost in the heartland. I never altered the code, that oversight rested with me. I secured the entrance and modified all with digits. Fiscal, correspondence, repository, the broadcast service they employed for festive films. The fiscal entity noted an entry from Arizona. Jeff and Lana relocated their quarterly past. Naturally, they had. That evening, a courier deposited a parcel on my stoop. No label, no invoice. Contained partial spool of adhesive strip, and my offspring's plush companion from prior season. No inscription, sole communication. I summoned authorities, displayed the fiscal image. The parcel, the locale, add further monitors. Record all they advised, a roster where solace ought to reside. The subsequent dusk, we returned from a screening. My shelter portal proclaimed in oozing scarlet, thankless. I ushered the sons within and retrieved the recording. Blurry, cloaked silhouette. A vehicle stationed blocks away, identifier vivid as noon. Lana's, I scarcely required magnification. I withheld tears. I brewed spiced brew and settled all for rest. Then I seated myself at the prep surface and commenced labor. Dawn, I contacted a security specialist. Fresh secures per portal. An acquaintance fitted additional watchers, exterior and interior. Safeguarding isn't suspicion when you've witnessed the script. I conveyed the plush to the rear yard and ignited it. No ritual, no address. Simply blazed devouring material until the odor shifted to determination. Then I launched a dossier titled Tally and began enumerating. Each provision errand, each remedy fetch, each minor aid that morphed into an invoice bearing my title, the pigment scrawl image, the courier parcel, the reproduced fiscal sheet. I transferred it to a document and composed a header. Since they desire tallying, let's execute properly. I dispatched it to each kin who ever murmured, to shared acquaintances who accepted the festive rendition of us. To the assembly, my mother aids midweek. It spanned an hour for my device to illuminate like alerts. Uncle weeping. Relations astonished. Images of mother's ambiguous entry about disloyalty, but the replies failed to console her then. Individuals veered toward verity. I responded to none. I merely closed my machine and released breath. They desired tallying. I presented the tally board. By dawn, the collective dialogue hushed beyond any regret, hushed beyond candor. I accessed my ledgers and purged, each auto-deduction refreshed, each joint entry nullified. Save one deliberately, their web supplier. 2 days hence the recording surfaced. Respond, we lack portal entry. I abstained. I relayed the note to my advocate and persisted in preparing morning fare for my sons. Then I rang their proprietor. Composed tone, direct details, they've inscribed me as surety sans approval. He exhaled as if familiar with such tales, comprehended, will reach them forthwith. Jeff rang subsequently. Then Lana. Then a numeral tagged mother residence. I permitted each chime to embed in the surface. Ultimately, mother essayed measured. Her tone tinier than recalled. We lack direction, Kirsten. We're shamed. We're perplexed. We require aid with dues. Blame stirred like a prior wound. I recalled the shelter portal in scarlet, thankless, seeping like doctrine. I recalled the plush in the parcel, the slip conveyed to my young. I messaged precisely once. You deemed me resilient. Thus prove resilient. Resolve it. Then I barred every numeral. The subsequent dawn I altered mine. Muteness descended like climate one inhales freely at last. I advanced. Nullified extra duplicates they'd neglected returning. Substituted the post receptacle secure. Configured the watchers to relay segments to storage and panel. The sons adapted swifter than eye studies at the counter. Brew on Fridays. Screenings sans device glances, no abrupt arrivals. No muted groan exchanges in passages. A week on, Uncle Marcus rang from an alternate numeral. He initiated with worry and concluded on charge. Kinship doesn't abandon thus. Kinship doesn't feast as their offspring departs famished, I stated. We both stilled. He expressed regret for ignorance. I noted awareness was elective. Mother shared something nebulous digitally. Treachery, incivility. The refrain shrank this instance. Images located me regardless. I ignored them too. I devoted Saturday to mending what contact allowed, sealed a breezy pane, lubricated the entry pivots, marked the storage racks. Minor structure in a abode that at last seemed proprietary. That dusk, another recording infiltrated a fissure. Kindly, Kirsten, merely instruct our path. I cleansed utensils to its tune. The dishware parched. The note concluded. The realm endured. Folks deem severing ties boisterous. It isn't. Its forms and codes, its obstructing numerals once listed on health sheets, its selecting serenity over summoned resilience. I refrained from exulting, from provoking. From glancing rearward, I simply existed, and permitted repercussions to claim their bearers. The portal wasn't sealed. It vanished. Weeks evolved into hush. Hush evolved into expanse. Expanse permitted inhalation. The suns acclimated foremost. Studies at the counter. Brew on Fridays. Chuckling sands recoiling at the chime. I persisted in monitoring the watchers. Scars don't withdraw on order. They merely soften. Then the missive materialized at employment. Sans sender mark. Within an image. My progenitors in a parish undercroft, positioned aft a collapsible surface. A manually adorned banner, local contributions appreciated, they appeared lesser, not shattered, merely mortal, a week hence another missive. A draft in father's script. No inscription, no stipulations, I neither endorsed nor shredded it, I archived it with the image. Evidence that alteration is theirs to oversee, not mine to oversee. At residence, serenity seemed robust. I marked storage racks, replanted the entry herb, demonstrated to my son's battery swaps, lest any signal dims anew. Certain evenings the prior pang calls, I permit it repose, then escort it outward. Regrets sans mending are publicity. Drafts sans liability are gag funds. Separation isn't reprisal. It's shielding that at last succeeded. Should they vary now, I wish it's genuine, not spectacle, not for entry. I require no drama, no oration, simply limits that endure, and an abode that remains toasty. I arranged 2 settings at supper, at times 3 for guests, never more for duty. To those opting serenity over spectacle, you're not callous. You're mending deliberately. Have you ever selected serenity over kin? Remark 1 if you've done so, and liberty is yours at last. Remark 2 if you're persisting, and it's tougher than assumed.